Hello there, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for this, our latest in the series of webinars with N-able. This is around Cove data protection again, and this time we're going to really focus on your backup strategy, right? And how we change that, how we revolutionize a backup strategy, and make it ready for the world we live in now and the future that we're all heading to with cloud computing and diverse hybrid environments. Something that maybe traditional backup doesn't really do very well, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. Now, I'm really lucky today because I'm actually joined by JG from N-able, and the big thing here is that he helped build this platform, so he's the co-founder, so he knows this inside and out. So for me, it makes a big difference to be able to say someone is here and that they have the ability to really talk about the product in great detail. So I get the advantage of not having to do that. So JG, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to say or add to that introduction.
Well, no, thanks, James. That's great. But I'm happy to be here, and I can't wait to show you the power of what Cove has in-house. But first, back to you, James.
Yeah, cheers, thank you. And so you all know who I am if you've been on a Planet webinar before. I'm James Dell. My job is to bring these products to you and to show you where the value is, and why we should be talking about doing things differently. And I'm here to take your questions about that. Talking of questions, we are of course using Teams Live because we're a big Microsoft partner. As part of that, we have the Q&A feature. So if you do have any questions during the session, please do pop them in the Q&A. I might not get to them immediately, but we will definitely get to them at the end. If I get a chance to get to them whilst we're talking through, I certainly will do. They are set to anonymous, so anything you put in, other people won't be able to see what you're saying, and we won't share anything that's kind of related to your business. So if you pop something in there that's sort of specific to you, I'll just scout around the outside of that just to make sure that we're covering that in a nice sensitive way. But we're here to help, so make sure you make the most of it. And obviously having JG here it makes a big difference. I've just seen Mark's message. I think everyone else can hear me. I think you can hear me, JG, can't you? So I think it might be an issue your end if you're not getting any sound. So I always have to do this at the start of a webinar. For those of you who don't know Planet IT, obviously we are a one-stop shop for all things IT. We started in the security space over 22 years ago, and we've continued to grow through professional services, backup and disaster recovery like we're talking about today, and managed IT support. What I'd always say is if you've got an IT problem, come to us. We'll always tell you what will help you, what products will help you, where you can go. And if there is something that isn't inside of our field of expertise, we'll tell you and we'll find you the right partner for that. And so much so that we're trusted by a load of household names, and you will have seen these logos before. And this slide keeps filling with more and more names, and we're proud to work with so many organizations and so many household names that this slide gets bigger and bigger every time. Now, as I kind of mentioned on my LinkedIn post, and I mentioned when we did this last time, we've got a prize draw. So we have got some Amazon vouchers to give away. As with everything, those vouchers are available for those of you who stay to the end of the event, and I'll spin one of those magical wheels, and there will be 3 lots of £100 Amazon vouchers to win. So you want to make sure that you stay to the end. If you do drop off before the draw, then you won't be in with a chance to win that. So, worth hanging around to the end, even if it's just for some Amazon vouchers. Talking of giveaways as well, something that was hugely successful last time we did this was these cooler boxes that we've got co-made with the team at N-able, which are Cove and Planet branded, and they've got some goodies inside them. And what we were able to do was give people those if you booked a demo on the previous one. And what we're pleased to say is that we can do that again for you. So if you book a demo or a proof of concept following this session with your account manager before the 14th of November, then we will ship you one of these out. And Barry, who is sat back in the office ready for this, will get those packaged up to you and straight away out to you once you've had that demo booked in. So it's definitely worth doing. They're really cool. I've currently got one in my kitchen. I would bring it in, but I don't want to show you it. It's mine. So without further ado, let's move into kind of what we're actually here to talk about, which is backup. And what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about that traditional backup landscape, right? So many of you will look at this and it will be very familiar, kind of irrelevant to what technology you're currently using. For most backup strategies for the last maybe 10 or 15 years, it's looked like this. You have a target server, something that you need to back up. Then you have a server that runs the backup software, or some kind of proxy server, something that runs the tools. Sometimes that might be an appliance or something else, but you essentially have a bit of tin that runs that. You then have some storage on site that you use specifically for taking the copies of these backups away from those target servers. However you would look to do that, whether that would be a NAS, whether that be a SAN, whether that's actually another server just full of disks, or again, if it's actually combined with these two and it's actually an appliance. And then you'll have some kind of offsite. Now, for lots of people, that will just be cloud repositories. That will be blob storage. It will be things like Veeam Cloud Connect. It will be AWS. It will be Azure. It will be some location that's not in your environment where you can put a copy of your backups to. Some people will have that as a separate site if they need to. And for some of you, you will have this as well, which is the bane of my life, which is tape backup. It's something that I've always loathed, mainly because it never works when I want it to. And it's something that does feel very old hat, but you'll often have those and they will be in some way attached to that backup server. The way that that really looks, though, is that your on-site system, regardless of what it is, will be taking some kind of full backup of the target environment, and then it will be stacking, in most cases, incremental updates on top of that. So your local on-site storage is always the best option that you have available to you, because it has either the most restore points, the most granularity, but normally the best speed, the best availability for you to do a restore, as it were. Your off-site or cloud will often just have a full daily copy of your backups. It will be a point in time, mainly because it will take too long to offload because of the speed or the size of the backups. You often find with traditional backups, you will see that this size of this backup is so large that actually copying it to the cloud is painful. It's an 8-9 hour job that takes a long time and means that it's not really viable to keep your cloud system as up to date as your on-site storage. And then your tape storage will, let's be honest, for most of you, will just be that quarterly or that weekly or that end of year backup where you take a copy of it, you shove the tape in a safe or in your car and take it home, and then you've got it if you really need it. But ultimately, you don't really test it. You don't really know if it works. It's more a case of ticking a box to say you've got that 3-2-1 approach, and then you've got some kind of immutable backup copy in place that's away from the system. Nobody ever really wants to rely on tape backup. They'll say they do, but every time I've been in a recovery and started loading back a full system from tape, you suddenly see the panic in people's eyes for how long it's actually going to take to get you to where you need to. Those kind of image-based backups that you're taking then have this kind of weird logic, which is it's built up of a number of chunks of information. So it's the data on the disk, it's built up of the system info, and it's built up of the platform information. So, you know, where it comes from, be that Hyper-V, be that VMware, be that any kind of hypervisor, be that a bare metal system. A lot of the information about kind of what makes that server tick is tied into that full system image that's taken. And then on top of that, you'll stack up these incremental changes to give you that kind of synthetic full system image approach. So when you go to recover, you're looking at pulling this chunk of data, which includes some information about the platform itself, including drivers and things like that, and what NIC cards it expects and all that. And often that can be quite limiting when it comes to recovery, because it's dependent on what backup product you use is whether or not it can actually recover to a different source to where it came from. A lot of tools, if you take a VMware backup of a system and you then go to recover it to Hyper-V, it doesn't do it. It will expect you to go platform to platform the same. And if it does allow you to recover it, it will often mean it will recover in a way where the platform is essentially semi-corrupted and you have to go through and reattach NIC cards, re-IP the system, change MAC addresses, and do a lot of extra fettling to get it to a point where it's actually usable. And this has always caused challenges, but it's always been something that we've accepted because the use cases, the times when you're actually having to do a full system recovery are few and far between. But when you do them, it's the one time you need everything to work perfectly and to know it's going to work. And then when we talk about traditional backup landscapes, the thing that people always kind of sort of forget if you're buying an appliance-based product, you're a bit more aware of this because you'll know the appliance cost and you'll sort of see that it might be rolled into some kind of monthly cost. But if you're buying and running your own backup software on top of your own server, your own storage, your own tape system, you'll suddenly become very aware of how much that cost for that system is and how often you have to replace it. So these figures are based on some averages from some SMB through to mid-market clients that we work with, and we're talking, somewhere in the region of £8,000 to buy a decent size server, something that you can recover back to in some degree if you need to, as essentially a local hypervisor. You're talking about £8,000 is kind of the average with a 5-year lifespan if you're lucky. If you're buying the right warranties, if you're going for the standard warranties, then 3 years might be all you get out of it. When it comes to on-site storage, if you've got something that's capable of running VMs back on that, so not talking about slow speed 7.5K disks or anything like that, we're talking about something that's capable of running systems, you're looking at about £15,000. And that's, again, a 3 to 5 year lifespan, depending on how often you're hitting those disks and how much read and write you're doing, because they all have a limited lifespan. Tape drives, you often get longer for these, so tape drives and storage, but you're normally looking at about £10,000 as a spend because those tape drive machines are expensive, and so are the LTO tapes that go with it. So again, at this point, you're talking well into the £30,000 mark for a refresh of a backup environment. And then there's the big one that stings you often, is this kind of cloud storage approach, which is anywhere between sort of 10p to 25p a gigabyte for Azure or AWS blob storage, but that's per month and that's forever, and it's forever growing. As long as you want to keep it, you've got to keep paying for it. But all of these things are only backup. All of these things that we're talking about here are mainly designed for backup. We're not costing into this any kind of recovery, any kind of testing, any kind of immutability. What we're talking about is saying we've got a backup tool that will write to some disks, that will write to some tape, and it will write to the cloud. And it means we've got copies of the data. When it comes to a recovery strategy, the tool can push it somewhere, but we actually haven't got the tools and technology in place inside of this stack for our kind of £40,000 investment. We're not there. And that's where traditional backup fails, because organizations don't work like that. If you need to recover, you need to recover in a timely manner. Gone are the days where insurance companies will send you equipment to recover to. They'll very much now be like, well, you sort that out, go to the cloud, go to a private data center provider. But then all of that takes time, and all of that requires connections, and you still haven't actually got to the point where you've recovered at that point. So it's something that is a major concern. And it kind of gives us this sort of challenges of traditional backup, scalability issues. If you buy a backup solution now and your business grows by 100 users over the next 6 months, is the solution going to be scalable enough to last you the 3 to 5 years? Probably not. There's a cost, an associated cost for the maintenance of the hardware. There's limited amounts of automation you can do. Most of that automation would be third-party, the automation that you would have to essentially build yourself. So if you want to test backups, or if you want to see if images work and do validity, all those kind of things, it's limited. You've got to probably build that out yourself. It's very slow to recover. And there's always a risk of data loss, because especially with the traditional kind of synthetic full approach, if that full backup gets damaged, which often happens, or if you're a bad actor trying to infect a system, that's where you'll start from, it really can cause some issues. So with modern needs, what we need from a backup solution is we need scalability, we need cost efficiency, we need automation, we need fast recovery, and we need data security. And JG will talk through how Cove answers those questions as he goes through the demo, and it will come really obvious really quickly. The final thing that kind of makes up traditional backup as we stand at the moment is around SaaS backup. So if we're talking about Microsoft 365 specifically, that's where we sit most of the time. Now, I know there is some people on this call that will be using Google Workspaces. But if you're a Microsoft 365 customer, you have the ability with a lot of products to do single tenant backup. So if you have the Planet IT tenant over here, you can back it up to some form of cloud service. But if I have Planet IT and there's 7 other companies that are inside of my imaginary group of companies and I want to back them up, I have to have 7 different instances, 7 different places that I have to back this up to, 7 different portals, and 7 different costs. that is unscalable. And we see this with organizations that are completed mergers and acquisitions, where they are buying more and more organizations in, and they've got tenants they need to back up and maintain for 6, 12 months, 3 years. And they have got, multiple of these products that are doing the backup and essentially leaving them vulnerable to not really knowing if it's doing the job correctly, because they're not logging into all of them and checking them properly, because that's too much for a team to handle. So it leaves you with another problem, and that's again another problem that Cove will solve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to JG to share his screen, and then we will look at how Cove can answer these issues for us, and you'll be happy to know I'll stop talking.
Thanks, James. But the only downside of everything you told in the last 15 minutes is me figuring out how old I'm actually already with all these tape backups going on. Yeah,
that's it, isn't it?
Thanks for pushing that through. All right, all jokes aside. I have my screen shared. I hope that's visible for everybody.
Yeah, we can see that. Well, it looks
awesome.
Like we
can. Thanks. Great. So what we're here in is what I'll do is based on James' story, and of course everybody probably will recognize parts of that in his or her current backup approach and strategy, and maybe also the problems and the complicated parts of the backups. What I'd like to show you today is a quick demo of the Cove dashboard, showing you our complete cloud-first backup for servers, workstations, Microsoft 365 tenants, different backup strategies, different restore strategies, completely combined in one dashboard, making it very easy for an IT manager to have like a complete overview and reduce the management of almost any backup solution in just single-digit minutes per day. That's the idea. Some people actually get it below 1 minute. That's totally possible. So what we have here is an overview where obviously these 4 donuts in the top are very standing out here. You can see on the left donut, the first one with the blue and the dark blue, how many servers workstations are in the estate. The second one's talking about the Microsoft 365 tenants, how many and how big. The third one is about the current success rate of your backups. And that is not 100%. There's a reason for that, which I will cover. And then the last is one, how many backups did we actually succeed in the last 24 hours? And in this case, 91, meaning everybody. Then we have in this, the grid below the donuts, we have all the devices and Microsoft 365 tenants. Any line that you see here is or a workstation or a server or a Microsoft 365 tenant. Nice of this is that they're always connected to what we call a customer, but you can just see it as an organizational unit, whatever you want to name that. That doesn't really matter. And it has multiple structures available. You can see that here in the top, where we have organizations with or service organizations and customers and sites. And you have like a whole tree available where you can organize your own estate. You can make it as simple and flat as everything in one top level, but you could also organize it into different entities. It's just made for that. So they're always connected to some sort of customer, and they also have the same way of working with reporting and statuses. So you can see the completed status here, or the in-process status for all tenants and Microsoft 365 tenants and the servers and workstations together. So they have the same status. And this green color bar with a few red ones and orange ones in the bottom is a super powerful way to show you not only the success rate of today. The completed is nice to know, but we think it's also important to note that it's also a very stable and solid system. So if you see, this is today, this is yesterday. The day before that is the light parts are the weekend. And then we have 5 ones for last week, and then weekend and week and weekend. And so you can go back 28 days telling exactly what's happening with this environment right now. You can see there's also things happening on the same day. That's us just rebooting the demo server at a weird spot. Can happen. So I can also scroll to the right, and we see we have a few extra columns here: retention policy, profile. I'll dive a little bit deeper into those things. But there are a lot of details that you can add into your view. This is a view is like what am I looking at, and which columns and which filters do I have? On the left side of the screen, I have an option, for instance, to click on the Microsoft 365 backups. So here you see 6 tenants running Microsoft 365 backups, the same color bars again, that's the same, but now we have different data. I have billable users for Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams in total. I also have my color bars per plugin. I have the license statistics per plugin, and I have the option if I have the auto add new users or auto add new OneDrives or SharePoint sites or Teams enabled or not in the settings. I can show you that in a bit more depth later on, but it's very important to note that we can make a purpose-built view, or they're actually built in already, the majority of these views, purpose-built to make your life as easy as possible and to point them right directly into what matters for you. Similar, but then also very not similar, is the assets tracking. That's the opposite. It's only the devices, but now based on when is the last heartbeat that we got, what's the version, what's the operating system, like all hardware related information. Is it a Mac or is it a Windows virtual machine or anything else? So we have a lot of information, like a lot, because we're talking about 600 plus columns, data source points that we have in our system that you can browse. And it's also, well, you can add them into a view, you can add extra filters and be very specific in that. And what we did specifically for the demo is to show you a 3-layer service level approach. And you see that here in the middle of my left bar, the 24, 4, and 1 hour RPO statements. RPO is the recovery point objective. And you can also explain that as the maximum gap between your backups. So 24 hour, it means like you would potentially run the risk of losing 24 hours of data, which in my opinion is too much. And I understand why people do it. And we also still quite a few of our customers tend to go that direction because that's what they always did, similar to James' story with how you do things and how if you have to write it to a disk repository or a tape library or something else, we still do run into that. Then the 24 hours is a logical approach. I understand that. But let me show you this. We have a subset of machines that have a specific profile. You can see that here on the right, there's a 24-hour RPO profile assigned. The profile means I am going to run once a day, and it also has settings on what it should include and what it should not include. That's all set in stone, actually, by the profile. You will see then, and that is very important to note, is you will see backups running here on files and folders, system state, SQL, for instance. That means that they are not running through the hypervisor. They will run in guest. And they will make a complete backup from the inside of the virtual machine rather than from the outside, is what we call it. So they actually all run as virtual machines. So don't get me wrong, this is all like virtualized environments. But we've decided to install the software in the operating system for Windows, for Linux, and for Mac to support it from there. And that has significant benefits that I'd like to show you. If I scroll a bit to the right, well, you can already imagine how much work this has been over the last few days to manage this. That's close to zero, of course. The retention policy is, this is the limited version of retention policy. We have, in this case, 7 intra-daily backups, meaning if you would do high frequent backups, we're going to keep the high frequent ones for 7 days. And the rest of the backups are going to stay for 30 days. Limited, but still like okay for some people. And a backup running every 24 hours. That results in something interesting. I'll show you that. The last successful backup for all these machines has been somewhere after midnight. And if you look at this column, this is the number of files that are in selection. So 6.1 million files, 2.3 million files, significant environments that they are. Then you can see the number of changed files here. So thousands of files is definitely not weird. Even 10,000 files. It's not a weird situation. Then the question is how much data is actually being transferred, and you can see that here. So what's the average? Probably not even 200 megabytes on average. And you can also see how long these backups run. They run somewhere in the middle of the night for an average of 7, 8, 9 minutes or so, not even maybe. So you have a backup being completely automatic in the middle of the night for 7 minutes, and now it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the afternoon and your server crashes. You get ransomware and something happens and you need to go back to your backup. Yeah, then you see the backup is 5 minutes 27 in duration, and it is, well, at that point, 16 hours, 17 hours, maybe 18 hours old. it hurts. Yeah, to me that hurts. So the software can just do so much better. That's why we would advise something else. Let's look at this setup. Now we're backing up a different data set, different pieces of machines, different set of machines, every 4 hours. We have a different color bars here. This one was actually added last week. That's how you can see what happens with a new machine. The rest is gray, and the new ones are, since then it starts running fine. Way more extended retention policy now, with also 12 weekly backups, 6 monthly backups, and 3 yearly backups at the end of the year, and a profile that is now doing a backup every 4 hours. And that means that the backup suddenly is now after lunch or even 2:30. I'm in the Netherlands, by the way. So if you see something for timing in the future, that is possible if you're in the UK. Look at the send size. We were looking at a few hundred megabytes. If you do more backups in the day, it will just reduce the size because it will split it over the day. And look at the session duration. We're talking about single digit minutes, like 4 or 5 minutes, not even on average. So if you can do that, that's already way better, like 6 times better than daily backups, but still it would open up the door for even higher frequency. Why not? Why don't we do hourly backups? Well, we have backups here. This is actually a machine that I installed earlier today, but never ran before. As you can see that here in the color bar. That's how that looks. Even more extended retention, up to 10 years, hourly backups, recent backups, like 14 megabyte of changes, 9 megabyte of changes, and you see 1 to 3 minutes per session that it runs. So I think that you got the idea that I'd like to present today. 1 backup per day is, in our opinion, in almost any case, not enough. I understand that is happening right now in different scenarios based on previous implementations, but with Cove, I wouldn't be happy if you run 1 backup per day. You can do so much better. So first of all, of course, there are definitely recovery scenarios, and I will touch on a few of those as well. But it starts with a good backup. If you don't have a backup, high frequent backups or any backup that you can restore from, it doesn't matter what scenario you work on, you have to get your backup in place. And that's what we can do very easily, as you can see here. By the way, if there's any questions coming in that I can't see because I'm only running on one screen today, James, please interrupt me.
I've got some questions for you. I was just letting you, some of these are kind of a natural point to talk about them. So the first question is around Microsoft 365 backups and how much storage space is allowed for backing up SharePoint/OneDrive.
Yeah, I will get to the Microsoft 365 components for sure, but I can answer it quickly already. Like if you select a whole tenant, that's like we have a user, we count a user or we don't count a user, and as soon as the user counts, we add 1 terabyte of storage per user in the tenant. So an enormous amount.
Nice and easy. I suppose the question that everyone's probably thinking, which is, where is the data stored in general with Cove? Is it in the UK? Is it in Europe? What's the? It is. Where does it sit?
It's open for your own decision, and I'll show you that. We have our customer environment here where you can add tenants and you can add your own environments. You can already see there's multiple storage locations here, but it works like this. If I add a tenant in the system, doesn't matter what name I give, I can decide what the device country is. So if I say it's in the United Kingdom, we will store the data in the United Kingdom. If you say it is in Turkmenistan, where we don't have a data center, we're going to give you the full list of countries where you can store. So it's up to you. Maybe you have a different branch in France or somewhere else for a different location. You could make a specific entity in Cove and also redirect backups directly to that country if you like. There's no cost difference on that as well.
There's 2 more questions. One of them you're going to answer in a minute when you talk about 365. So I'll just say it and then you can answer it in a minute, which is questions about how the restore process works for 365. So I'll let you show that when you do your 365. But the final piece is around encryption and around whether or not you can bring your own encryption keys for doing immutability and protection to the platform.
Yeah. The immutability, that's interesting that you say it, of course, because like it's so standard for us that I sometimes even forget to talk about it. Our software has built-in immutability. That means that as soon as you store it in our, I'll actually get a knowledge base article for it. As soon as you back up the data into our cloud, it is immutable. So there is no local staging appliance, like for instance, if you would have with Veeam or something else, that you have to go through 30 pages of documentation to get it immutable. That's not what we have. Our software has, you can see that as well. There's hourly snapshots available for the whole, for anything in the environment, and that is for 30 days. So it says each fortified copy is retained for 30 days. So we have hourly snapshots for the last 30 days in case something happens. That could be malicious, based on an employee that had a job review and still had access and thought it was funny to remove the service before it was sent home. Some stupid thing. No, those things happen for sure.
It does happen, yeah.
Yeah, no, that can just, like, it's a simple, like, people have very enhanced software things in place, but something simple like that could easily ruin your setup, of course. Anyway, that's those type of things are in place. The encryption is not an option. Like, encryption is always on. There are, though, two options for how you want to do the encryption. If and I'm doing a little bit of sidestep because it's a very specific question, but I'll show you. If you add a device into the system, we have two options: a managed encryption. I'll make it a bit bigger here. Managed encryption, that means that we will do a system-generated passphrase, and that also means that you can only access that key if you have the right access level in your Cove dashboard. It also means that a former employee that set up the software previously that doesn't have access to the system anymore can also not go into that restore point, because that's not a fixed encryption key. Then you have the option to do a self-managed key, and if you do that, you can actually enter the device key. It's actually in the next screen. But then you can actually do a single self-managed encryption code.
Perfect. So
the downside with that is that if somebody wrote it down while installing it and they go somewhere else, that technically can do a restore 6 years later.
Yeah. Because
they wrote it down.
Yeah, it's not the most secure approach, is it? Unless you're going to do things in the right way. So no, thank you for answering those questions. I'll let you continue on with your demo.
I'll do a few minutes on the recovery side of things, and then I'll jump into the M365.
Perfect.
People are dying for the Amazon vouchers. I get it.
Yeah, that's it.
So let's jump into this. So backups important, and I showed you that they are, if you follow our advice, they would be high frequent, directly to cloud, with a very decent retention policy, making sure that you're covered in case something goes wrong, whatever goes wrong. But then there are, let's say it goes wrong, then it's important to note that you can go back very easily. I'll show you the simple file level restore in a minute, but let's say there is a serious incident. Maybe you have a hypervisor and a few of your virtual machines don't boot anymore for weird update, or something else happened. Somebody just messed up the whole database and it's not what you want anymore. So you could say, okay, I want to set up a recovery location. Our recovery location is available in Hyper-V, Microsoft Azure, or VMware ESXi. And it will allow the software to create an image based on our non-image backup. That's very important to note. We are proud of making non-image backups. People say, yeah, why do you do simple image backups? Because image backups are ridiculously inefficient. That's the problem. Like, they take so much resources, disk space, processing power, internet connectivity, everything that will limit you to, well, one backup per day with limited retention and a locked in restore. As James said, like, if you run Hyper-V, you probably have to stick to Hyper-V for your restore as well. So we don't. You would install, let's say I've installed this HV15, I've installed a recovery location on, I pointed it to the D drive to say that's where you can restore, and now I have a request that I need to do. So I say, yeah, let's do a one-time restore into Hyper-V. The nice thing is, it doesn't matter what this input was. I'll show you that. I get a list of all my devices. These devices that are compatible, filter to one customer. These devices could be anything. This could be an Azure VM. This could be a physical box. It could be a workstation. Could be a Proxmox VM. It doesn't matter. I can just do a restore of these, let's say these 3 machines. I'll go to next. I can continue this, and it's going to give me the specific point in time selector here. So 1 backup per day is very limited. If I go to another day, it's still 1 backup per day. If I go into this machine, it has every 4 hours backup. That's already nicer. If I go to yesterday, you can see that it has 6 sessions. If I click on the day, there we go, has 6 sessions available. And this one actually is way nicer. This is already for everything today. Or if I go back to yesterday, this is an impressive list of restores right there. Any point you can pick. So let's pick this one. And this is very cool. You've seen these backups were not a Hyper-V backup. They were just a guest level backup, but we will restore them into a Hyper-V host. And if I say next, I can even choose the amount of cores I want to assign, how many gigabyte RAM I want. You can pick the original device configuration. You can add virtual switch and hold the whole IP stack into it as well. And if I follow this simple wizard, which I will not do right now, but you can imagine I just enter an email address for reporting and I click OK. It's literally that. It will start restoring these machines right now. And they will actually run even together. It can do 5 restores easily at the same time with normal hardware. So there's a fair chance that within 30 minutes, all 3 machines are restored completely. If it's just normal, simple service. That's really nice. But what we can also do with the same logic is we can, I have to go to standby image. We can also say, let's do something else. Let's create something in a Microsoft tenant. So you could also set up a virtual machine in a Microsoft tenant. And you can then say, okay, that recovery location is my target. You can see it runs actually in a tenant with a certain subscription. And I want this machine to be part of a standby image plan. And that means that it's not gonna give me the power to select a specific session. No, each session will be restored, no matter what. So hourly backups, hourly restores, daily backups, daily restores. You can add a boot check on top of that. That will mean that it will not only do a restore into a virtual machine, but it will also mount it and boot it on a monthly basis to prove with a screenshot of the boot screen in an email if you want, or in the dashboard, that it actually did work. And then we have extra options, some detailed options that I will not go through right now, but I can now connect to the Microsoft tenant. Let me do that right now. Do that with this one. Probably have to log in. No. And based on my credentials, it will now allow me to restore this Windows 11. This could very well be a physical workstation. Maybe it's super important. You can pick the resource group. You can say this is the name. You can decide the VM size. So the whole list of VM sizes, whatever you want. You pick the size you want. You can change the operating system disk type. You can change the data disk type, the virtual network, including all the options that you have in your location. And this simple process, because like anyone can do this, will create a native Azure VM based on all the settings you did for this backup. You will get a working Windows 11 back in your Azure tenant, even with these settings, all the settings that you want. And what's going to happen is that it's going to keep it up to date, and that's even nicer. So if I go into my standby image dashboard, you will see all the machines that are running on the HV15. You can see also the backup session was somewhere earlier today, even up to like 20 minutes ago. In my case, it says a little bit after 4 p.m. here in the Netherlands. So this is 20 minutes ago. And this backup, the backup started 20 minutes ago. The backup is done. The restore started. And that is also done in 7 minutes and 35 seconds as a delta restore. So that is a very interesting process, showing you even with the screenshot, like, there you go. This was the machine, depending a bit on, this one is actually booted on a weekly base. You can see here boots weekly. That's why the date is not today. It starts weekly, by the way, on the moment you add it. So if you add it on a weekly base on a Tuesday, then the Tuesday is going to be your weekly. Otherwise, everybody's going to run on a Saturday or so. And you can see here the duration of these restores. They're delta restores and they're super fast. So you have a completely working environment. In this case, the HV15 has all these machines ready to go. Like it's an Hyper-V host where there's just like 29 virtual machines ready to go. I can just press play on one of them and they will go. So that's another thing. There's way more extra options that I can go over, but I will stick to this unless James has other questions from the audience that I need to cover.
No, I think you've covered all that. I think it's the questions are now around kind of how it works with 365. So I'll let you
correct.
Crack on that.
That's what I'll do right now. So with the same, like this looks like a separate dashboard, but if I go to my all devices and if I select one customer, if I do that correctly, for instance, this one, you could see like there's one tenant, there's a server, and there's workstations. This is one customer, right? One entity that has the full management of this environment. So adding this is so simple, and it's only a one-time thing that I will not even bother you with it. But the adding is only once ever anyway. So the day-to-day management becomes a bit more interesting, of course. If I go to a tenant, I can click on it. I can see the history of the tenant, and you will see already that it runs multiple times per day. How frequent is it running? I can show you that in the overview. It has per data source, there's 4 data sources available, has a different frequency. You see that here, up to 6, up to 4, up to 4, up to 6 sessions a day, with a fixed retention for 7 years. That's how it is. So all your custom retention policies that I showed you previously are related to workstation service. That's correct. This is M365, and that has a fixed retention and a fixed frequency. In the onboarding, when you add the tenant, it's going to look something like this, very close to this. So you pick the users in your tenant for Exchange, for OneDrive. You can automatically add new users in Exchange and OneDrive, and you can also add the in-place archives now as well. I can already note that soon we will have a switch option to decide if you want to do user selection of Entra ID security group selection. So that's coming, just so you know. We have an option for your SharePoint sites. You select the sites that you want. And again, also the new sites, because otherwise that would be an administrative nightmare if you don't do that. And for Teams, similar. You just select the teams and make sure that the new ones are added. This option here, this green check on the right, is the same as if I go to the right here. It shows you if this is on or off. Like this one is off. I can click on the tenant. I can go to Exchange and OneDrive, and you will see that that is actually not selected. You see, it's off here. That's how it works. Setting this up, I do this on a daily basis with multiple partners, is actually like, I hardly see anyone struggle with this. It's very easy to do, and it will just run. It will just go. So what you need to take care of is the onboarding is the first phase. Are you happy with is everybody there, and are new users also added automatically? But that's like a very simple check for yourselves. Then is your day-to-day management. How are your tenants running? If you have more tenants, like are they green? And if not, what's going on? But I can assure you they're going to be green in 99% of the status. This was due to an update that we had. That doesn't happen that frequent. And of course, you will have restores. Somebody is going to say, okay, but I need an email back, or I need a OneDrive file back. That process is also very simple. So I can right-click on the tenant and say restore, and I have the options here to pick. So let's pick an Exchange restore. It will ask me to connect with the right credentials. Otherwise, it doesn't allow me to do a restore. So I have to log in with my sandbox user in this case. It also likes that. And then I get a list of my available users that have a backup. I can also see when the last backup was and what the status is. So I say, let's pick this user. It's all good. And then it works always in a very similar format. It starts with, tell me from which moment you want to do a restore. So you can pick the 1st of November. You get multiple options in that day for the plugin. You select the moment, and you have 2 options here, your normal inbox and the in-place archive, if you have selected that. And it is as easy as browsing through the inbox, and you see I've got multiple emails here. So if I search for Azure AD, I see that in the subject. I just press enter, and there we go. You see it automatically selects those. I can, let's say I want to do both, because that's the email that I want. I can see to and when it was received. I can say, okay, this is what I want. I'm happy with this. Let's go. Then where do you want to restore to? And this is for OneDrive and SharePoint also the same. Like the logic is always the same. You tell me where you want to restore this to. So I can do the same user if it still exists, but you could also have a restore from a deleted user and then it doesn't exist anymore. So you have to do it somewhere else, which is not a problem, but you just need to do that. You select a different
Just on
user.
that, JG, sorry, because
Yeah.
there's a question about that. So if you're restoring a file from a user who's been deleted, you
Yeah.
don't need to license that
No.
that deleted user. You just need to target it someone that's got a live account.
Yeah, or a shared mailbox even. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, correct. Then different user, we have a suggested folder so that you can easily find the file or the email that you did. But you can also say, no, I want to have it in the drafts of this user. That's fine. And we get into the summary of these 2 emails, and I can say, let's do a restore. It points me to a job queue that I can go to, but again, I'm too slow for this because it's already done. If I go to history, you see 2-second restore for Exchange. It's that fast and it's that simple to process. You can also access the restore part, by the way, from here. You can also say, I need to do a restore for OneDrive. I will not go through all 4 because it's very similar, but I think that if you've seen 2, you get the hang of it. So limited list because not everybody uses OneDrive in this tenant, so that's why it's a shorter list. It is has a little bit different interface still. We're getting everything in the same one, but it starts with the date. Then you have a selector for the time. You get the tree structure, how it looks like that. You can browse through this. By the way, looks very simple, but this is a significant list of files. You see, like look at how far this goes. Like we know from competitive solutions that it already takes 15 minutes to get to this part of the tree, let alone doing a restore. So looks like a small detail, but it's actually an impressive technology behind this. And then the same, but in a different format, a user format. Where do you want to restore? So again, I pick a different user. I pick a different custom folder if you want. Yeah, that's fine. And say next. And it says go. Again, I can go into the job queue. There it is. I can do a refresh and it's gone. So that restore was a whopping 5 seconds.
Can I fly through some of the questions that will be relevant
please.
to us? So, the first question is there a user portal where employees can restore their own files and emails?
No.
Cool. That's it. It's good. Nice, easy ones. What about Google Workspace backups? Is that something you do at the moment? Something that's on the roadmap?
It is on the short-term roadmap even. We have opened up our list for getting access to the preview soon. Like it's pretty far already. It's coming.
Perfect. When it comes to the server side and restoring, you can restore individual files inside a server backup rather than just a whole machine. So then there's no kind of limitation there. You can, if you want to dive into a file, you can just do the same thing you were just doing with OneDrive and SharePoint.
I had to pick my battles, but
yeah, that's 100%. I'm very aware of time. That's what I sort of
no, but while you're talking, I can actually show you already that I've just right-clicked on a machine. The cool thing of doing that is that it opens up a remote connection gateway. Takes a few seconds, but the data center acts as a proxy to that machine without actually connecting to the host. Maybe I should pick one that's a bit close to me. But if I want to, no, actually I want to do a different one. If I want to get into this machine, I can right-click on that host. And it should start a remote connection gateway. Anyway, the interface will be there, and doing a single file restore is, it should always go, like a demo should always be a bit tough at some spaces. It was way too smooth so far anyway. So
no, it's all good. I think we answered the question. It can do it.
I'll get to
We're doing a demo. It's always going to cause
yeah.
issues. The final question I've got in front of me is, what is sort of N-able's internal replication or backup strategy for if one of your data center go down? So, i.e., you lose a data center in the UK or in Europe. What's the approach from your end for that?
Yeah, that's an interesting statement, and we are considering extra options for it. But so far, we have like very high redundant environments, but we stick to the same data center. So Perfect. We don't replicate data out of that same data center. We had the option and years ago, and we're considering bringing it back, but it definitely has a cost impact, of course. And people are interested until you present the cost, and then suddenly everybody thinks it's good enough to have it, to don't have it. So that's always a bit of a tricky situation.
I'll give you a tricky question, because otherwise, what would we be doing? I suppose we've got a couple more minutes before we need to head towards the wrap up. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to show while you're in the interface. I think I've cleared all the questions off now.
Well, if anyone has any, I hope it is so far has been informative for everybody here. I already know why these machines don't work. You know what? I'm actually at home right now, believe it or not, because our office is getting new car chargers and they completely turned the power off. And the machines I'm trying to connect to are actually behind that same power that's now off. So
Yeah.
guess what? It's
You can't
solved.
access
The mystery is solved. Yeah.
Well, you couldn't make it
It's
up,
not,
could you?
and that's not a joke. Yeah.
Well, at least you have a car charger when you get back to the office.
Uh,
Yeah. What I'll do, if it's right then, is I'll just take back over and just wrap the slides up. If anyone has any additional questions, do feel free to pop them in, and we'll answer them as and when. I think the one thing I will say with all of this, when it comes to the Cove platform, is take advantage of the demos and the proof of concepts. They're there to show you the value of the product and what it can do. So it's very much a case of you'd be better off, taking advantage of that. We don't charge you anything for it. It's something where you'll get real value from it, and it'll be the opportunity for you to see what the product does and works and feels like. And ultimately, if you're like me, you want to get your hands on it and make the most out of the kind of platform itself. Always put this up in terms of, if you want to get in contact with me directly, you can do that through my email address there, or you can do it over Teams as well. I'm more than happy to do that. I will get on to the prize draw because I'm aware that people have been sat waiting for this. So just to explain how it works is, data protection and all that. You'll see that the initials on the board rather than your name. So, for example, I would be on there as JDP, James Dale, Planet being the last initial there. So when that name comes up, it's definitely not a fix. But yeah, so what I'll do is I will swap what I'm sharing. I will share the wheel, and we will go for 3 spins and see what we get. Hopefully this works. It's a confidence. Yeah, there's a wheel. Right. And there'll be some terrible sound. I might get some duplication of sound, but here we go. You're going to be a bit of a laggy wheel, but let's give it a go. The worst thing is I don't know who any of these people are because I haven't checked. So I will just keep spinning it. I'll get the 3 names out. What will happen is your account manager will reach out to you after this to set up, getting you the vouchers, and hopefully talking to you about setting up a demo as well. Okay, there's number 2. And the final one. Oh, there we go. I didn't win. I'm not very happy. I'll complain to someone about that after. Right, let's just go back to the presentation a second. The team's to catch up with me. I'm working too quickly for it today. So hopefully you won something. Your account manager will be in contact, but you've still got the opportunity to grab one of those amazing cooler boxes. They are really cool. It's something that is just a thank you from us to and the team at N-able for joining those demos and listening to more detail about the product itself. So definitely feel free to make the most of that opportunity. And if you want to get a demo and look at it, all you need to do, reach out to your account manager. Your account manager will get you set up with a demo account, which will essentially give you 30 days access to run the product. And it's a great way to do it, right? It's a great way to understand what it does and to understand how powerful it is and also how simple it is to get set up. I think, JG sort of lightly touched on it is, there's other products out there where it's 300 pages of documentation to get to the bit that you need to. We've done deployments for this in a few hours worth huge systems and had backups up and working. So it's definitely something that can show some great value. I think it's worth saying at this point that, the reason that I brought up those questions at the start around, what modern needs for backup are, with Cove, you're ticking all the boxes. It's a scalable solution. It is cost efficient. The automation, as you saw, is built into it. Even the simple things like giving you a screenshot to show you that a standby image is ready and available should you need it, or would be available from a checkpoint. The speed of recovery, because it's a modernized approach to taking backups. And when you're taking backup images that take 7 or 8 hours to upload versus ones that take 7 minutes, it definitely means you can be more flexible about how often you're taking backups and how quickly you can recover. And so much so that the data security is built into the platform to the point where we don't even need to talk about it because there's no other option. It's secure by nature, versus platforms that can be made secure, but it's up to you as a user to do that and to stay in front of all the latest security changes, which is never the right way to be, because all it takes is you to miss one update or to miss a change that's required, and suddenly you haven't got immutable backups and you're in a bit of a pickle. That brings us towards the end of the time. I appreciate that we've gone through a lot of stuff here. What I would say is reach out to your Planet IT account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is, drop me an email and I'll find you an account manager, or find out who your account manager is. That's not a problem. Get yourself a demo set up. So we've got those cooler boxes to get shipped out. Get yourself a demo or a proof of concept booked in the next 10 days and get onto that product and show yourself more than anything how it compares to what you're using at the moment for both SaaS backup and for your on-premise backup, and the fact that you could put it all under one pane of glass in one simplified management portal that will do everything, for me gives huge value. So if there's no other questions and I haven't said anything ping off while I've been talking, it just goes to say thank you for all of you for attending. I really appreciate it. JG, as always, thank you for giving your time up to go through the product. And we could probably do these for about 7 hours and still have stuff to talk about. But I think it's so important to show the value that that comes from using Cove and how it's very different to the way that a lot of traditional backups have been approached. So I appreciate you giving your time up today to do that. And hopefully the power's back on in your office by the time you have to go back in. Outside of that,
that's going to be tomorrow, so that's fine.
You hope anyway. Outside of that's it from us, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. I say your account managers will be in contact, and have a great rest of your afternoon. And we will, as always, publish a recording of this on our YouTube, normally in about 2 or 3 days by the time we get around to editing it. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
Bye bye.
Cheers all. Bye.